Americans should be able to retire in dignity and safety. I mean, I hate to point this out, but in Hebrew, there is no word for retire. Now,
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Something else that, people have been kind of scrutinizing lately is retirement. And the 401k system that has really, kind of scammed a generation and a half of working people.
I was talking about this with, my in-laws not too long ago. We were just talking about pensions, and, it was in the context of UAW, actually, UAW pensions. But, we talked about how used to pensions were kind of a standard. It was just something that not everybody could expect, but a lot of people could expect. Enough to where, you would expect it at many jobs across many industries. And
even non-union ones.
Even non-union ones, right? And now, largely, that's because of the efforts of unions. And that's part of the value of what unions bring to the table in lifting up the standards for all working people. But we talked about that, how it really has been that is a decline in the standard of living for working class people to not have that guaranteed defined benefit pension plan that really allows you to retire with some dignity.
And that's right. That's pensions are so important to people's ability to retire with dignity and, not have to toil for the last years of their life, and to be able to have the freedom to spend your last days on this earth doing something that is fulfilling to you, or to just be able to rest, your weary soul after 30, 40, 50 years of grinding your body and your mind away to make profit for some capitalist. It's not a crime, actually, in my book, to just want to rest once you turn 65. But most people don't want to do that. Or younger, right? I'm planning to retire younger. I'm planning to retire at 57. So that's, and fortunately, the federal workforce, we have a pension. We also have like a 401k, replica, and then we have, like everybody, Social Security, and those are things that the pension and then the pension being weakened by the 401k is not great, but the pension was obviously fought for by my union. And so, Lord willing, if nothing happens, I feel relatively confident that I'm going to be able to retire at 57. And everybody should be able to retire at 57. And, that doesn't mean that I'm going to stop doing anything, but that means that, like, Lord willing, at 57, I'm going to have the freedom to do, like, anything that I want, within reason, and not have to do something just because I need to earn a living, because I will have spent 37 years, serving the American people in the federal government, and I'll be rewarded for that by being able to spend the last hopefully a couple of decades of my life kind of doing something that I want, but so many people don't have that anymore, and that's because of the scam that we've that has been foisted on American workers, the 401k, and so that has meant that people are having to work later, people are having to put retirement off for longer, and some people today don't even anticipate ever being able to retire, but according to right-wing radio host Glenn Beck, that might actually, be a good thing, in fact. Let's play this clip from his show.
Americans who devote decades of their lives to toil should be able to retire in dignity and safety, period. I mean, I hate to point this out, but in the Hebrew language, there is no word for retire. Now,
pause that for a second.
I believe that, I don't know if I'm ever going to retire, but
Oh, well, if there's no word in Hebrew for retire, well, shit, Glenn. I guess I should have to work till I'm 95. You got me. Checkmate. Yeah. I literally, there's nothing else to say. There's no word in Hebrew for retire. Well, that means we can't ever retire, right? And so what he's responding to here is Tyranny Inc. That is a new book put out by Sohrab Ahmari that I may actually reach out to this fella and talk to him on the show. He was on Left Reckoning. He is a conservative. He considers himself a conservative. He's kind of socially conservative, maybe more socially libertarian, but he is personally opposed to kind of social liberal values, but he's economically, he's more kind of on the left is what he says. And in this book, he basically kind of lays out, that, conservatives should empower labor actually and be in favor of unions and, because that's actually, it's actually good for the family. If you're, if the father or the mother or both of them have good wages and good health care and then a retirement, it's good for the family, it's good for the community, good for the church, if people are comfortable. But and something Alex said in the chat that really I think resonates is, they said we would be an entirely different country if more of us had pensions. Financial stress just makes divisive rhetoric more effective on both sides. Stressing folks about their final days is even better. And I think that is that's huge. And whether it's the prevailing wage that we were talking about this morning with the building trades or a retirement pension, when we're helping working people live a more dignified life, they're going to be less stressed. Right.
Those are better neighbors. That's a better community. Those are healthier people with, like you said, more time for family, more ability to take care of their family. And last I checked, a lot of folks really like family values. I hear about those a lot in Alabama. Good old-fashioned family values, and so I think having time to spend with your family, I think being able to know that you can keep the lights on and feed your family,
it's good for the family.
Being able to go to the doctor when you need to, being able to take your kids to the doctor when they need to go to the doctor, that's good for the family.
Yeah, shocker. So, that's kind of Sohrab Ahmari's case. And I would recommend, listening to his interview with David Griscom on Left Reckoning. It's kind of an interesting dialogue, have, a socialist and a conservative talking about labor power. It's interesting. It's interesting. I would recommend checking it out. But so Glenn is here, responding to this and saying, it's actually not conservative to think that a family should be supported. So let's play that back and let's let him finish his thought there after he told us, really put the truth bomb on us about the Hebrew language.
Americans who devote decades of their lives to toil should be able to retire in dignity and safety, period. I mean, I hate to point this out, but in the Hebrew language, there is no word for retire. Now, I believe that, I don't know if I'm ever going to retire, but even if I did retire, it would just be to do something else. There's...
Yeah, that's often what regular people do, too. But he did hate to point it out, though.
Yeah,
you're never stopping working, and that doesn't mean that you have to toil in the same job that you've been in. However, what he says, a stronger labor movement with government backing could demand that large firms restore the older model of retirement based on defined benefits. Wait, the older model? You mean the one before the government took over Social Security? You mean one where you did...
The government took over Social Security. It was previously apparently private.
Yeah, no. Social Security is not the same as defined benefit pensions. It's actually two different things you're talking about, bud.
Did get a golden watch? You did work at a company. Not all companies did it, but you could pay in some of your salary and you could retire and the company would help you with the retirement. That model was destroyed by the federal government. creating yet another agency. And what did they do with our money? They don't have our money. Every dollar that I have paid into Social Security my whole life, I'm not going to see. I'm not going to see it. They don't have it.
Yeah, I mean, some of this goes to the idea that like the concept of a person going through their life, working really hard at a job that is trying to produce for their family, and at the end of that life, they're able to, let's call it retirement for the sake of this, but like, what is retirement? I mean, as you point out, retirement might be working at your church. It might be, it doesn't mean you just sit around at a golf course necessarily, right? Like, it's something that you want to do, finding that thing that you want to do. And that is something that I think we all aspire to.
We do.
When I look at the economy, I think to myself, man, if I could just have the money that the government has taken from me over these years, I could do that on my own. I wouldn't need government programs, but instead they take them from me. They give me a promise of a future IOU with money that I know they don't have.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
How stupid.
What the fuck is he talking about?
I mean, like actual insane stuff. So there was a couple of arguments there. One of them is that Social Security destroyed the pension system. Okay? So, and you know, presumably saying Social Security was taken over by the government, that was kind of like he misspoke, presumably. Presumably, Glenn Beck does not actually believe that before the government took over Social Security, that there was a Social Security before the government, that the government then took over and nationalized. Presumably, he doesn't take that. Presumably, he means the government taking over retirement in the form of Social Security. And he says that basically, his argument is that destroyed the pension system. And that's just factually not true, okay? And how do I know this? Well, we can look and see, let's Google really quick, when was Social Security started? Okay, here we go. 1935. Okay, so is his argument that actually in 1934 everyone had a pension and then the government comes along and just destroys it? That's what you would have to believe for this argument to be correct, is that before 1935 everybody just had a pension. And then the government comes along, FDR passes Social Security, and now everybody's fucked, right?
Well, you know, he hates to point it out. But you know, we do like the truth on this program. Here's another truth. The number of employers offering traditional pension plans, according to this, and now this may not be totally exactly right, but I think it's going to be kind of close, got up to almost 50% between 1970 and 1990. The workforce.com says that 45% of all private sector employees had a pension by 1970. Inquiron.com says that in 1998, 50% of employers were offering traditional pension plans to new hires. Okay, so, you know, I think that we can conservatively estimate that sometime between 1970 and 1990, we actually hit the peak of retirement, which is 1970, 1990, the middle of that is 1980, and then, you know, from that time period, we started seeing the decline of pensions. Leave it to the listener to figure out what the hell happened in 1980. Well, that's, you know, there's some homework for you. But if the peak was in 1980 and Social Security started in 1935, that's actually almost 50 years after the implementation of Social Security is when pensions started declining. I mean, what just foolishness. Insane stuff. I mean, just totally incorrect. Totally devoid of anything, you know, anything that is related to what workers experience here in the real world. I mean, it's wild. Yeah, we just got a comment from Jimmy Fedora, who said, in ancient Hebrew, there's no word for deceptive, misinformed talk show host, so Beck shouldn't have his job. That's exactly what I was going to say, and then someone verbalized it for me. So
Strom McCallum with a $2 super chat said there's no word for railroad in Aramaic either. So,
whoops.
I mean, I guess railroads are imaginary. They don't exist.
Yeah, what a trip.
What a trip. Yeah.
And, think about the fact that millions of dollars has been pumped into this guy and like promoting this guy, getting his foolishness into people's brains.
Yeah, I mean, pumping.
Pollution. It is like intellectual pollution. They're polluting the airwaves with this garbage.
Like, he ought to be fined for this. Like, the EPA ought to give him a citation.
Yeah.
But, so, like, lest you think, though, that this is something that is relegated to the fringes of the online right, I have another clip for you from the Republican presidential debate stage. Let's play that clip.
What we also did was cut pension payments to public employees to make sure that taxpayers were not being soaked by a public employee union system that was killing the taxpayer.
Thank you, Governor.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there you go. If you serve the public, if you are a public servant, and nowhere are you getting rich off of being a public servant, right? That just doesn't really happen. If you're just a rank and file worker working for the government, you're not getting rich.
With the exceptions of the university football coach, or of course you're going to find, those kind of
heads
things.
of agencies. But if you're a rank and file worker, you're not really going to get rich. So if you serve the public, you administer Social Security, or you run the town office. Chris Christie, presidential candidate for the Republicans, thinks that you do not deserve to be able to retire with dignity, and nobody else on that debate stage challenged him on that. Okay, so we can just assume that this is at least an accepted position in the Republican Party, is that people who work for the public do not deserve to retire.
Literally take money out of your pocket and out of the community's pocket. And that was something, I remember when we were fighting to defend the retirement system of Alabama against some of these same threats from some of these same kind of forces, frankly, because it was, the billionaire John Arnold was behind some of these threats in Alabama to try to privatize the state pension system. And it was some of the same rhetoric about, overpaid public employees and that kind of thing. But one of the issues we talked about was, do you not recognize the economic impact that for every $1 that is going to that retiree, the number of dollars that is circulating in our community?
7 times is what Brother Kimball said.
In terms of his local hire, in terms of that local hire, right? And so it's going to be a similar type of multiplier for a state pension, any kind of public pension, and so to brag about trying to take money out of the pockets of elderly folks who have been working their whole lives, it is it is a moment of class warfare. I remember you had Jim Cramer on here a couple weeks ago, who was really pissed that Sean Fain was apparently preaching class warfare. But is this not class warfare?
Right.
to brag about taking money out of the pensions of retired state workers? Come on now.
Yeah. And Alex, you mentioned this in the chat, and I appreciate that because I wanted to mention this. Something tells me that Glenn Beck is likely already seeing it, that being his Social Security. Remember in that clip, he said, I'm never going to see Social Security. I'm never going to see it. Every month around the 1st, or will very soon be at the minimum. And you're right. This guy is 59 years old, okay? So when he
Social
says...
Security's there for him.
When he says, I'm never going to see Social Security, he is actually lying to you. Maybe he believes this about Social Security destroying the pension systems because he just doesn't read anything ever and has no idea about how the world works. I will give him that benefit of the doubt. Let's say that. Let's just say that he is so misinformed and stupid that he believes that Social Security destroyed the pension system in 1935. Okay? Let's just pretend that we believe that. At 59 years old, having been in politics his entire life, when he says, I'm never going to see Social Security, he is lying.
He thinks that it won't be there, and he will literally be eligible in, 3 years if he wants to take at least some of it out?
Yeah. No, he does. There's no way that he actually believes.
Come on now.
There's no way he believes what he just said.
It's all going to disappear within the next 3 to 5 to 7 years.
What a lying. A ghoul. A lying ghoul. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.